Okay, well, thank you all for coming tonight. This is our monthly meeting. We are the Midlands REIA. There's several other REIAs in the area, and be sure to check them out. The bigger you can grow your network, the more deals and opportunities you'll see coming your way. Okay, photos and video may be captured here. It's generally me just putting on social media or something, okay? So if no one has a problem with that, well, that's just the liability disclosure. Now, for those of you who know me, I've said a few things that are a little bit controversial, all right? I have my own personal opinions. Anything that I've told you or anyone here tells you, except for the one legal attorney here, Rich Baldwin. Except for Rich, anything else here is just personal experience and whatnot. If you have legal questions, go see Rich. Okay, he'll set you straight. But also,
I got some hard ones for you, man.
and anything financially related, I can only tell you from personal experience, as can anyone else here. So I don't think we have any licensed financial planners here, do we? Are you licensed?
I'm licensed, but I'm not good at commercial planning per se. I refer that.
Okay. Well, check with Rick here also. So, okay, this is the goal I was telling you about. Nationwide, the success rate of only doing even a single deal, and the gurus that come to town know this, only about 3% of anyone's ever going to do a single deal. So they sell their really expensive mentoring programs and stuff. And I have my personal opinion on that, but I'm not going to get on that now. Our goal is to provide enough reasonably priced resources to raise the success rate to at least 20% by the end of the year. I get the impression we're pretty well on the way, if we're not already there, because I see a number of you doing deals regularly now. And we hope to offer an abundance of resources, provide great networking, give the best training possible, at least what we know. There might be better training out there that we don't know, we'd like to hear about. We always seek to improve and adapt as the market's changing and whatnot. And like for example, next month, Dean Louise and I are actually going to another REIA's 3-day wholesale training. Hopefully we can learn something to bring to you here, okay? We want to learn and teach the best practices for local investing, as I hope you all do. Some annual member benefits for those who are thinking about joining. We get discounts to national vendors and supply houses. Discounts to Midlands REIA trainings and workshops. I'd like to make a lot of the Midlands REIA trainings free to members and maybe a nominal fee to non-members. No door fee to general meetings for annual members. Access to the members area with local cash buyers. I get requests for those pretty regularly. Also, we have documents up there. The videos I'm still working on. Okay, members, if you want to see a video or something, just email me. I'll send you a private link to that. Okay. Right now, I'm still working on the technical aspects of that, documents and whatnot. And now, this is not a national thing. If you're a member, I can give you close guidance from my perspective. I can't tell you the best way to do a deal. I can tell you the mistakes I've made. And I'll bet you I've made more mistakes than anyone here, believe me. But anyway, that's a Midlands REIA thing, not a national thing. And I'm sure a lot of our other more seasoned members, like for example, Crandon, he's relatively new, but he's tearing it up. This guy's learning quick, and he's also willing to share his knowledge, okay? And as well as more. Hopefully we'll come up with more benefits as we see fit, and as you suggest them, if we can implement that. Okay, we're always looking for ways to improve, maybe some workshops. We actually have one coming up at the end of this month, beginning of May, but that's through our speaker tonight. And later on, we're going to have a rehab workshop with Eddie Sabina. Topics, maybe there are topics you don't want to see here, but you might be interested in other topics. Like, for example, we're supposed to bring in a flood zone guy next month, okay? Also, subgroups. We're trying to start a local notes subgroup, for example. Okay, something where we're just doing local notes. But if you have any ideas where we can improve, let us know. If we can do it, we'll implement it. We're on social media, the major ones, obviously YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. But if nothing else, you might want to go to this one. This one directs to our Money Mastermind group, our deal flipping group on Facebook. There's a lot of deals being flipped there. In fact, JD thinks, he estimated me about $25 million worth of deals that going through that group, okay? So now there are other groups like that out there. This one here specifically, the Midlands, and a little bit of Charleston.
You do need to be a member of Facebook to be able to access it.
Yeah, if you're not on Facebook, get on Facebook, all right? Okay, this is, now I keep getting this maybe once or twice a month. Someone keeps on asking, where's the cash buyers list? When you log in, if you do not log in, you're just going to see something that says log in, log out. That's it. When you log in, you get a drop-down menu, and your cash buyers list is right there. I believe there's 54, 55 of them right now. All right? And also, some of you have told me some of these cash buyers are no longer in the area and they're buying elsewhere. When you find that out, please let me know so I can update the list accordingly, okay? Okay, membership is $125 a year for a single, $200 for a couple. Now, a while back, we had charter members. Okay, those are special fees. If you're one of the charter members from way back when, see me or Dean Louise, okay? But anyway, there's something called REIA bucks. You can earn those. When you bring a referral in, you get 5 REIA bucks. And you guess it's 5 REIA bucks. That person signs up and uses you as a referral. That's another 20. You can apply that towards things like membership, workshops, or whatever, okay? Oh yeah. For a while, we weren't strictly enforcing the $20 repeat visitor fee. First-time visitors are free. After that, we do have to charge $20 to help, support like the group and whatnot. But we decided we're going to have to start enforcing that pretty strictly if you're not an annual member, okay? Okay, a few announcements. Dean Louise's Book Corner. This is actually pretty cool.
So this month's book is Never Split the Difference. I would highly recommend the Audible audiobook because a lot of what it's talking about is in negotiating, a lot of it is tone of voice, how fast you're speaking, how you're using the language, and that comes across in the audiobook. So when you're reading the book and it says, use a lower end, I'm like, what does that mean? The Audible, it's an example, it gives you that. So I would highly recommend it. This is an excellent book. A lot of it is, and it's applicable to any aspect of your life, okay? You need to ask for a raise from your boss. You're applying for a new job and trying to get benefits and things and add on to your job thing. Obviously, negotiating with sellers, negotiating with buyers. This book has got some excellent techniques, tools, things that you can use in every aspect of your life. I would highly, highly recommend it. And again, the Audible version I think is excellent. And I just listen to it in my car. I live all the way down in Batesburg. It's 45 minutes for me to get anywhere. So I get lots of it listened to. And I'm rewinding constantly to listen to it again. It's a great book. If you ever have any recommendations, a book that you have read, whether it be pertaining to real estate in particular or not, let me know. Send me an email. Give me preferably an email because I'm always looking for new books to add to the list.
Can you talk about Palmetto Civitan too?
Oh, yes. Thank you. Actually, there's a couple things. Palmetto Civitan is the charitable organization that we help to support, one of the many. We just did the fundraiser for the Boston Butt. I want to thank you all. We had 6 tickets that we sold as an organization, so we appreciate all the support. Thank you to all of those who did. It turned out to be a delicious, delicious roast. It's about 7 to 8 pounds each one, and they freeze really well, so it was wonderful. This weekend we are selling beverages at the Ice House Amphitheater in Lexington for the Barbecue and Blues fundraiser. In July we're going to be having a fundraiser for Salsaritas, and they meet the first and third Tuesdays at the Flight Deck in Lexington from 6 to 7:30. You do not have to eat if you do not want to, but you can have dinner there while you're there. We are trying to raise funds for an after-school program for special needs. There are very few after-school programs specifically geared towards them. They need people who have been specially trained to deal with issues, emotional and psychological issues that accompany some of these students. And so they also just need daycare because there are very few that are specifically geared towards special ed. So that's our main project right now. We're trying to raise money for that. And please, you get 10 REIA bucks for coming to the meetings, five for attending a meeting.
But they're active, they get the full, it's a quarterly fee of $50, and if you're active, then the association reimburses you at $50, something like that. Is that what it was?
I don't remember. We
Okay,
bandied
now,
about so many different
For those
things.
of you who are more monetarily minded, okay, there are ways to work that $50 down. So if you pay for a quarter $50 and you're active by participating in certain activities, Civitan gives you money back. So you can actually make money by participating in this. If you
So like
have
working at the beverage booth this Saturday, that gives you credits. We work with the Special Olympics, we do picnics with a couple of group homes, we did a Christmas party for a group home. There are things usually about every other month that are activities that you can be involved in if you don't necessarily if you can't come to the meetings, you can still be involved in other ways as well. So if you're interested, let either Bob or I know, and we can get together with you, okay?
Thanks.
Anything else?
Okay, next meeting for Civitan's May 7th. Now, I hate to say it, there's no cash-on-cash return on this. We're just trying to make this part of the world a little bit better place to live, that's all. Okay, Mike Greene's Technology Minute. All right, Mike Greene is actually the one who came up with this. He's a West Columbia City Councilman. Mike was here earlier, he left. Okay, anyway. Okay, the idea was to give you a website that's free or very inexpensive. This month it's C Loans. Is everyone aware of this one?
Nope.
Okay, C Loans is kind of like an online meeting place for loans and whatnot. Everyone's asking for money. Now, here it matches borrowers, lenders. It has like a little application pending for either a residential loan or a commercial loan. This is all investor stuff, not owner-occupied stuff. Okay, and these are potential lenders. Now, be careful. This being what it is, it's really a meeting place. You don't know if you're dealing with a scam artist online or not. One key is this: if they ask you for a bunch of money as a due diligence fee up front or something, probably a scam artist, okay? But anyway, I know of at least one of our members is an apartment house investor, and he found his first apartment house funding on C Loans. So there are legitimate lenders here amongst the scam artists, okay? Anyway, that's this month's Technology Minute. Okay, one of the other REIAs is the Columbia Real Estate Investors Association. That's run by D'Angelo Lasser, Rick Renner, and Keisha Jones. I don't have Keisha's number, I gotta get that for her. But that's every fourth Thursday of the month, and it meets at Greene Gardens. The next meeting is on April 25th. That's another place to meet seasoned investors and some pretty great people. I've got some pretty good ideas out of this one. All right, remember, build your networks. Now, every last Friday, does anyone need to take it back there?
Yeah.
Okay. You okay?
Thank you.
You got that? Okay, every last Friday of the month, Deborah Wanger holds a ladies' business networking lunch at East Bay Deli. This is only for the women, all right? But it's 1 p.m. on April 26th is the next one. If you have time, you can attend this one. Deborah's a seasoned business person. She manages it's either close to 100 or 100 mobile homes and whatnot. So she's pretty seasoned. It's a good place to kick around ideas, okay? So consider attending that one. Okay, we also have, as I mentioned before, our next speaker actually has a boot camp coming up. Now, this actually came in really handy when I was first starting out, but I'll let our speaker talk about that a little more later. But it is May 4, 5, and 6 of this year, in fact, a couple weeks from now. And the reason it is because on May 6th, that's a foreclosure sale. Tony will be taking us to the foreclosure sale as well as to the Register of Deeds office. Show us how to properly do research as well as what you do at auctions to find the cash buyers and whatnot, okay? So that's going to be a good one. And I'll let Tony describe wanna hold that. Okay, with regards to what Tony teaches, some of you know this one here, kid. I've used Tony's methods for a number of years, and I found some of my best cash deals using his hidden markets methods. What he does is he teaches how to find the hidden deals where they're hot areas, and no one else really knows about them. This one here was a house that appraised in 2004 at $71,000, and because no one else knew about it, I was able to get it for $9,500. In fact, this is my second home away from home. It was so cheap, I mean, I use it for my second office now. Okay. Anyway, I actually told one person about this deal when I had it under contract, and I had several people ask me if they want to co-wholesale it back out. But this is a keeper for me. But I use Tony's methods, and that's why I'm so excited that we have Tony here tonight. Okay, tonight's speaker has been a real estate investor for over 3 decades. He started with no money and bad credit. I'm sure several of you might have that issue here now. I know my credit still sucks, but I have cash, so I don't care. Now, Tony now buys houses nationwide. He's a national investor and educator. And Tony's been one of my mentors since 2006. That's when I first bought your course. But if we could give Tony a nice Columbia welcome.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. Hello, Columbia. Yeah, I just got done, finished my my golf game down at Augusta National. Trying to beat Tiger. And, so, anyway, it'll take me a second to set up. You know, I was flying up the highway, and can you hook that up? Sure, and now I'll get us. I was flying up the highway, and I was running late for this meeting, so I get pulled over. I get the state trooper behind me, and I just acted like I didn't see him because I didn't want to be late. And so,
Tony, do you have a power cord?
Yeah. So I didn't want to be late. So what I did is I just kept on driving, and I come whipping in the parking lot. He comes whipping up beside me, and he came up to my window, and he said, "I've been trying to pull you over for 5 miles. Didn't you see me?" I said, "I'm a forward-looking guy. I never look back." He said, "Look, I have been given tickets all day long. If you can give me an excuse I've never heard before, I'll let you go." I said, "My wife ran off with a state trooper a year ago. I thought that was you trying to bring her back." He said, "Have a nice day." No, I don't. But, yeah, you know, I was flying on a plane yesterday, and, you know, whenever you get to to the end of the boarding process, if the seat next to you is still empty, that's a bonus, you know, and you go, "Man, I'm going to have elbow room." But right before the door closed, I heard someone running down the jetway, and I thought, "Oh, man, I hope they don't sit here." But in walked the most beautiful girl I've ever seen. And I was going, "Oh, man, you know, I'm kind of shy when it comes to beautiful women. I'm always afraid I'm going to say something stupid." Sure enough, she sits right next to me. So I was so shy, I picked up a magazine and acted like I was reading. And then she wanted to talk. She sits down next to me and starts talking to me. And I turned and looked at her. I went into a trance. She was so beautiful. And so I said, "What kind of a man does a girl like you like?" And she goes, "Well, I like Indian men because I love their skin tone, but I like Jewish men because they're so successful, but I also like Southern men because I love their Southern drawl." And she goes, "By the way, my name's Amy, what's yours?" And I said, "Geronimo Bernstein, but my friends call me Bubba." Now, so, You know, I guess I learned that from door knocking all my real estate career. You know, when you're talking to sellers with real estate, you have to become everything to them. So I think it was sort of running off on her. I became everything to her, you know. But I'm a happily married man. So, you know, nothing went any further than my introduction with her, but, you know, I love my wife. She's responsible for making me a millionaire, because before I met her, I was a multi-millionaire. Now, let me tell you, the reason I always go to the Masters is because of my wife. Her father gets tickets every year. So my father-in-law, and that was one of the reasons I married her, you know. Well, the real reason is she had a tattoo on her butt cheek that says, "If you can read this, you better have a wedding ring." But anyway, so about these tickets, about these tickets, my father-in-law gets them, but he's 90 years old now, so he doesn't use them anymore, so we use them. But how many of you know that Masters tickets, if you get them, it comes to an end when you die, right? How many of you ever seen Weekend at Bernie's? You've seen that movie? Well, what it is, they kept the guy alive after he had died, or they just didn't keep him alive, they just kept him around. So we're thinking about doing that with Pops to keep getting those tickets, you know. But any of y'all go to the Masters or have anything to do with it? What a shame. It's so close to you. All right. Well, you know, if you're going to be an investor, you're probably going to want to learn to play golf, you know. You see, every weekend what I do is I go door knocking on Sundays, and then Monday mornings I do the title searches on all the deals I find that day, and I process them, send letters to some of them, track down vacant owners. But that's a ritual. I'm disciplined to do that every Sunday and Monday, and then I play golf on Tuesdays unless it's raining. How you doing, man? You still got that bar?
I do.
All right, everybody meet at his bar after tonight. Okay. Yeah, one time I was staying at one of these hotels here, and this lady was checking out, and I guess she was going to the airport, and she had a case of beer left. And she goes, "Do you want this beer?" And I said, "Sure." So she gave me a case of beer, and I gave it to him, and I guess he was able to filter it through the bar somehow. Okay, we're going to talk about the hidden market. What is the hidden market? The hidden market is homes with no for sale signs. You see, it's so competitive. Everywhere you go, it's just competitive. If you have a real estate agent that brings opportunities to you, they usually bring them to other investors too. So there's multiple people trying to make offers on the same deals. If you go to an auction, a foreclosure auction, you have to outbid all the local investors to get that deal. So if the local investors aren't willing to outbid you, and they're going to let you have it, I think you're paying too much. And so it's so competitive today, because if anybody else knows about a deal, there's going to be more than one offer, or someone's going to be competing with you. And everything turns into a bidding war. So, you know, I go out in neighborhoods and I look for houses that look distressed with no for sale signs, and I find deals all the time of people that would sell or will sell, and their house is distressed and they can't afford to fix it or don't want to. So I get deals, and I'm getting such great prices on these deals that I'm making $100,000 profit on these deals. And I'm going to prove it tonight. Because, and see what it is I'm a wholesaler because I find a lot of deals, so I can't manage them all. But the ones where I get them at such a good price that I'm going to make $100,000, I do rehab them. But because of my schedule and my, you know, my lifestyle, I really don't want to rehab more than 3 or 4 per year. So that's about what I'm at. Everything else I just wholesale because you know as well as I do, there's thousands of investors that would buy a good deal from you if you find them. So the key today, I don't think you should spend all your time looking for cash buyers right now. I don't think you should look for all these other techniques. I want you to get good at finding deals. Because if you get good at finding deals, people with money come to you. How many of you have ever known that? That when you're good at finding the deal, everybody wants to either partner with you, or they want to buy that deal from you, or they want to, you know, be your money person. So even today, I never have to use my own money because I've got everybody in the world that knows that I find deals, so they all want to back me. So occasionally I still use the money, especially when I'm rehabbing. Here's why. How many of you know that when you rehab a house, not only have you bought the house, but then you've got to sink money into it, and every day you're spending money, thousands of dollars. So that's not fun. But if you use someone else's money to rehab it, then you can invest wisely. You can take that money. If you get 3 estimates for, say, $40,000, the investor gives you $40,000, and you can hire people out to do the work, and you'll do it conservatively. Like, for instance, if you know you got to fix up this house for $40,000, when you go to Home Depot, you're going to say, okay, I need a toilet. And you go down the aisle with toilets, there's 15 different toilets you can choose from. One of them is $88, and then they go up as high as $400. So when you buy a toilet, you'll notice the $88 toilet looks exactly like the $250 toilet. So which one would you buy? If you're going to sell a house with new toilets, why not buy the $88 toilet? I always leave the labels on so they know it's brand new. But the only difference in the toilets is one uses less water than the other. Well, I use the old redneck method. If I want to use less water, I put a brick in the tank. Come on, folks. If you put a brick in the tank, it will use less water. So, you know, don't buy the $500 toilets, buy $88 toilets. Anyway, you'll see that tonight. Now, what I do, folks, is when I use, if I'm good at finding deals and everybody wants to get in on it, I'll use their money to rehab, because if I hire people, what if I do some of the work myself? Could I pay myself out of that money? Yes, I can. So I'm actually earning money. As a matter of fact, when I'm rehabbing a house, I give myself a check for $1,000 out of the rehab money every week for overseeing the job. How many of you would like to make $1,000 a week when you're doing your own rehabs instead of just spending money? It's not good for your marriage when you're constantly spending money on rehabs, because your wife says, or mine does, hey, we need a new dishwasher. Why are you buying a dishwasher for that house? We need a stove. Why are you buying a stove for that? We need granite countertops. Why are you you know, so I just keep the business part separate. Okay. Now, so everybody who knows me, how many of you have been to one of my trainings before? You know that I always plot a course of foreclosures. And then I go out and knock on those doors. Now, foreclosures are highly competitive, and the worst part is people in foreclosure do not want to sell their homes, do they? They want to keep their homes. So you're fighting a battle right off the bat because you're only going to find 1 out of 10 people that might sell their home. The rest of them are going to say, no, it's not for sale. Now, I believe it's because during the crisis in 2008, 9, 10, 11, the banks were letting people stay in their homes for 4 and 5 years without making payments. So they got used to that. So they do not believe they're going to lose their homes, but people still do, don't they? But it is tough. Every time you knock on a foreclosure door, they don't want to sell, and if they did, they're getting 50 letters from people like you that are wanting to buy their homes, right? I mean, they've got 50 people wanting to buy their home. Do you think you're going to get a great deal? If you make an offer, they're going to probably call 2 or 3 other of those people that sent letters and said, hey, can you beat this offer? And sure enough, they will. So it's very competitive. But the good news, and this is how I discovered the hidden market, is when I go to this foreclosure, I drive the neighborhood and I find 3 or 4 other distressed houses with no for sale signs. It's not on anybody's list. It can't be bought on a list. It can't be found on the internet. It's just a house that's distressed. Now, you pass them every day of your life, but you never think to knock on the door because you think they'll think you're crazy or something. Who cares? I find probate situations every time I go out. I find bankruptcy situations every time I go out. I find people that aren't in foreclosure, but they're behind on their payments. I find every kind of situation you could ever think of, because when I go to this foreclosure, I find 4 houses in those neighborhoods. Then I go to the next foreclosure. And when I knock and they say, hell no, it's not for sale, get out of here, I find 3 or 4 people that do want to sell in that neighborhood. And then I'll go to the third one. But by the time I get to the end of my course, I have a list of 30 to 40 hidden market distressed houses without for sale signs, and I am the only one that has that list. Nobody else has this list. So every week I am finding 30 to 40 hidden market properties because I'm willing to plot a course of foreclosures. Okay? And even if I couldn't plot a course of foreclosures, what if there was not enough? I go to some cities where there's not 10 foreclosures to go to. So if you go to auction.com, you can plot a course. I just want something to follow, because how many of you have ever been driving for dollars? Okay, it gets boring after a while, doesn't it? After about an hour or so, you start going, which way do we go? I don't know. Where do we go? By plotting a course like I've been doing for 30 years, I always have a starting point and an ending point, and at the end of the day, I get the same result, 30 or 40 distressed houses, okay? And out of those 30 or 40, if I get 1 or 2 or 3, wasn't it worth it? So every weekend I get at least a deal. Now there's some follow-up involved in some of them, but I think a lot of it has to do with being a door knocker. You know, because I just knock on doors. Now, if you're afraid of knocking on doors, I can tell you at least 1 time per year that you can knock on doors without being afraid. What day would that be?
Halloween.
Halloween! There you go. You can knock on a door of a foreclosure on Halloween and they come to the door smiling with a bowl of candy. See, I always took my daughter to foreclosure houses only. Because it's a way to meet the owner without the fear of them you know, cussing you out or whatever, or shooting you. So, but when I knock on Halloween, I say trick or treat, and you know, if my daughter won't go with me anymore, so I have a dummy. I just so I always say, hi, trick or treat. Oh, what a lovely house you have. Would you be interested in selling it? And sometimes, because they're in foreclosure, they'll say, yeah, come see me tomorrow. We'll talk about it. Now, okay, so you see, having a course, it keeps me out there till I've been to all 10 foreclosures. So therefore, I don't get stuck with not knowing where to go, where to turn. I just keep going and I get the same result. Now this list of properties I get, if I do that every weekend, every month I've got a new list of 120 distressed houses in my area. And I've never saturated my area because the foreclosures take me into areas that I hadn't been to before. So it's not a matter of not knowing where to go or which neighborhoods to go to. I let the course dictate where I go. So this list cannot be bought. That's the beauty of it. Nobody has this list. Because you can go on the internet and you can buy a list of absentee owners, you can buy a list of vacant homes, you can buy a list of this and that. But other people buy those lists and mail to them. The hidden market is the only way you're going to find people that no one else knew about. Like Bob's house. Nobody else knew about that. That's why he got a great deal. Okay, let's move on. I know some of you aren't going to like this where I talk about my first deal because you've heard it before. But for the new people, I'm going to go through it. Here's how I got started. I was an aircraft mechanic at Lockheed. Anybody ever heard of Lockheed? Well, I had been there for 10 years working there. It was good money. I enjoyed my job. I had great benefits. But all the other mechanics, the old timers, they were always talking about investing their money. I mean, these old guys, they had so much money because all the money they made at Lockheed, they invested it in something. And the only thing I invested in was Budweiser. So, you know, those guys had money all the time. I was broke. I got paid on Thursday, but I was broke by Sunday night. And these guys had tons of money. And so I kept thinking, I want to invest in something. So I saw there was a seminar, a free seminar. And it was a TV guru that was coming to the Atlanta area. And I attended that 2-day seminar because it was free. But man, I learned so much about making big money because real estate can produce more money than any job you've ever had. So I was sold, man. I bought some books and tapes and I went home and I believed it was going to work. You see, when you get home with a set of books and tapes, usually your brothers and sisters and mom and dad and your circle of friends go, "You idiot, that stuff doesn't work." But I believed it was. Maybe I was too naive to believe it wouldn't work. But I believed it was going to work, so I applied it. And within 3 weeks, I got this house. It was a foreclosure. I thought it was vacant because the grass was high, but I got it out of the newspaper. It was in the legal notices. And when I went to this house, the grass was 3 feet high. The house was chocolate brown. The gutters were actually hanging down because they were so rotten. And so when I pulled up in front of it, I thought it was vacant. So I pulled up in the driveway and I started to walk around the house. And when I went around the right side, I wanted to see what the backyard looked like. So there was a 6-foot privacy fence. I couldn't quite see over it. So I went to the gate, opened the gate, and the grass was 4 feet high. It looked like a jungle back there. So then I decided to start looking in the windows, and I looked in one window. It was kind of dark. I couldn't see a whole lot. Then I went to the next window and I looked in, and I saw some stuff, just junk, you know, a bunch of stuff in there. And then I went to a third window and I looked in. Some lady was staring right back at me. She was sitting in a chair right inside the window looking at me with an amazed look on her face. So I freaked out. I go, oh my God, it's not vacant. I thought it was vacant. So I wanted to explain to her why I was in her backyard snooping around. So I went to the back door and I knocked, and she comes to the door and goes, could I help you? I said, ma'am, I am so sorry. I said, I saw this house was scheduled to go up for auction. It was in the legal notices of the newspaper. And when I drove by, I thought it was a vacant house. She goes, well, it is in foreclosure, but if you'd like to buy it, come on in, I'll show you around. She grabbed me and pulled me in and slammed the door. Now, folks, when that door slammed, everything I learned in that 2-day seminar went blank from my mind. I couldn't remember anything. So I was in a trance, and she was going, sir, would you like to look around? I said, well, that's a good idea. So she's walking me through this 5-bedroom, 3-story house. We go up into the master bedroom. She goes, here's the master bedroom. And then she would look at me. And I didn't know what to say, so I would just go, nice bedroom. And then she, you know, all I knew to say, nice bedroom, nice bathroom, nice basement. I had no idea what I was supposed to look for. I couldn't remember anything. I just knew I felt uncomfortable, and I was going, oh crap, how do I get out of here? Now, inside the house I was stepping over clothes and shoes, and it was dark inside. I didn't know it at the time, but the lights, I mean, the power had been shut off too. So the only light was coming in through the windows, but I just remember it was really messy and it smelled terrible, like they had a lot of cats or something. So I kept thinking, how do I get out of this situation? And then my mind would say, well, how did you get in that situation, you know? So then we walked through the den, and I heard a noise over in the corner. I looked, and there was an old man sitting in a rocking chair. So when I turned to look at him, she goes, oh, that's my husband, David. I said, hi, David, how you doing? And he didn't say a word. He just looked at me like. So then I turned around. She had gone into the kitchen. And I said, wait for me. So I ran into the kitchen where she was at, and she was showing me the kitchen. It was really messy. And then she asked me to step outside on this porch. She goes, let's step out here. So when we were out there, she said, how much would you give me for this house? I said, I don't know. I said, how much do you want? She said, 85. I said, is that a good deal? She said, yes, because all the homes in the neighborhood go for 130 to 135,000. But we'll let you have this one for 85,000. Well, I didn't have 85,000. So I just wanted to go home. So I'm thinking, you know, what do I do now? So my mind came up with this idea that if I make a real low offer, she'll turn me down and I can go home and finish studying my books and tapes. Okay, so she said she wanted 85. I said, well, I'm looking for something around 65,000. You know, 85 is a little out of my range. She said, no, we can't take 65. We're going to hold out and see if we can get 85. I said, okay, thank you. And I hopped, skipped, and jumped down these stairs, got in my truck, and I was backing down the driveway. And let me show you a different angle. You see how this driveway is sort of curved like a banana? 1986, The grass was 3 feet high. That driveway was completely covered in leaves. So when I'm backing down the driveway, I didn't know that it curved like a banana. So I just backed right on into this grassy area, which is steeper than what it looks like on the picture. And when I realized I was off the driveway, I turned the wheel to get back on the pavement, and my front wheel started sliding in the wet grass. So I'm freaking out thinking I'm going to roll my truck and flip over and die, but at the exact same time, someone started screaming at me. They were going, "Stop! Stop!" I was going, "Oh my God, did I kill somebody or something?" I thought I ran over something. And I looked up and it's that lady running down going, "Stop!" And so I rolled down my window. I said, "What is it?" My husband said, "We'll accept your offer." "Well, what offer?" "Did I make an offer?" She goes, "Yeah, we'll take 65. Well, I said, "Well, what do we do now?" She goes, "I don't know. You're the one that wants to buy that." See, I didn't have 65, so I was going, "Oh, crap." You know, why did I even say anything? I mean, and you know what? That's one of the fears of people today. Their fear is if they offer to buy something, they're afraid it'll get accepted. And then what? Where do I get the money? But I'm going to help you overcome that. Now, what happened to me is I didn't have $65,000. So I'm just sitting there thinking, "Oh crap, what do I do?" Now, another thing I learned, looking back on that, is if you make low offers on everything, thinking they'll get turned down, then you'll become a professional. Because that's what I always did back then. I always made such low offers that I didn't have that fear that they would get accepted. But then they started getting accepted. Man, I'm going, "Oh crap, now I gotta come up with the money." But so anyway, 65, I told her at the window when she was standing there saying, "We'll accept your offer." I said, "Well, I don't have any paperwork. I gotta go home. I'll come back and see you tomorrow." She goes, "Tomorrow?" She goes, "Do you realize our home is going up for auction on Tuesday?" And this was the Wednesday prior. So that freaked me out even more. She goes, "Can't you come back tonight and let's see if we can wrap this thing up?" And I said, "I'll see what I can do." Well, what happened, I backed out of this driveway and I sped off at 90 miles an hour, making sure she couldn't get my tag number. Because in case I'd never go back, you know. Because I didn't have the money. I was just wanting to hide from the whole situation. But when I got home, I started thinking about it. I started thinking maybe it is a good deal. You know, I don't really know how much work it needs, but if it's worth 130 and I can get it for 65, that's what the seminar was talking about. So the name of the package was How to Buy Foreclosures with No Money or Credit. So I thought, I guess I'll read it. So I started reading the manuals. You know, there was like 9 manuals and 27 cassette tapes. And I was specifically looking for how to buy with no money. So I found a chapter that had all these no money down techniques. And one of the ways it was talking about, and you all know about it, is wholesaling, you know, just assigning the contract. If you get something under contract, you can assign the contract as long as the seller doesn't put a clause in that says it cannot be assigned. So that's how you can do a deal with no money. But you do have to make offers, okay? Now, another way it talked about was taking over the existing loan. The person in foreclosure obviously has a loan, so you take over the payments. But then I found out that they're in foreclosure because they're behind on their payments, and you've got to bring the loan current. you've got to bring enough money to the table to catch up their payments. In this case, it was $3,032. But that's a heck of a lot easier to come up with $3,032 than it is $65,000, right? Okay, so, but that was kind of a no money down technique. Now, the book was saying the way you do it with no money in a subject to deal is use your credit card cash advance and get the cash from your credit card. So there were people back in the 80s that were doing that. They were sending off for 50 credit cards at the exact same time, and then when the credit card companies would check your credit, they didn't know you'd applied for 50 of them. So a lot of times you'd get a whole bunch of them approved right away. And there were students that were getting deals using cash advances, but that was the way they did it back then. Okay, so what I did is I knew it was close to the auction. I went ahead and practiced. I recommend you practice. If you find a deal out there, just act as if you're going to buy it, process it, and write an offer. If you're scared to present it, that's okay. But here's how my career started. Because I found this thing, I decided I would at least practice writing an offer. So I pulled out a blank contract and tried to see if I could even write an offer. So I put the seller's name, the buyer's name, $65,000 in the purchase line. Asked for a closing date, just simple things. But I had a filled out version of the author's contract in the book so I could refer back to it to see what goes in each line. The hardest part about it was on page 2, there was a whole blank section that said special stipulations. And you're supposed to write stuff in there. So I was able to refer back to his filled out version to see what goes there. And those are contingencies. So someone give me an idea of a contingency. What is a contingency? You got one?
13-day inspection period.
This offer is subject to a 13-day inspection period. So you'd write it in that blank space. What's another contingency? Anybody else got one?
Financing.
This offer is subject to the buyer being able to get financing. Now you see, that eliminates your fear right there, because I know there's 90% of the people in this room is afraid to make an offer knowing you don't have the money. How can I make an offer knowing I don't have the money? So some of you will spend a lifetime looking for cash partners and never do a deal, because you're not going to make an offer till you know that you've got 20 people strangling you saying, I swear I'll put up the money. I mean, people will spend a lifetime trying to find that. But you've got to do the opposite. How many of you have heard, if you find the deal, the money comes? It always does, because everybody wants to get in on it. So, that's a good clause, because that eliminates your fear. If I made an offer to this lady for 65 and I put a clause that says this offer is subject to me being able to come up with the 65, then that means that I'm okay, you see, subject to financing. Now, some other ones. What's one more? Give me another one. This offer, oh, go ahead.
Partner approval?
This offer is subject to my partner's approval. Who is your partner? Do you even have one? Could it be your dog? If he wags his tail, my dog didn't wag his tail, so I can't go through with this deal. Okay. Now, here's a really good one. This offer is subject to the buyer's approval of the inspection. There's always something in the inspection that you could, get out of a deal. There always is. You know, I put houses on the MLS when I rehab them. And even non-real estate people that buy these houses and don't know nothing about real estate, they back out for stupid things like that. Okay, so you've got to get over the fear. You've got to learn to make offers. Cause my famous saying is, if you're not making offers, you're not making money. If you're not making offers, you're not making money. So you got to make offers. And I'm going to show you tonight how you can make a lot of offers every week if you want to. Okay, so what happened, folks, is I got that house under contract. Now, here's how it happened. I practiced writing the offer. But then I chickened out. I was going to call the lady and say, look, I was just kidding. No, I wasn't going to say that. But I was going to say, look, you know, if you can sell it to someone else, go ahead. I'm having trouble. But her phone number could not be found, and I didn't get it. So I knew that she was waiting on me. She had her hopes up. I had to face that woman. So I went back to her house, I knocked on the door the next day, and she goes, where have you been? We thought you were coming back last night, and we waited, and we didn't know your phone number or your tag number. But I said, well, it took some time, but I got the contract together, so I held it up. She goes, oh, she got very calm. She grabs it, looks at it. She goes, oh, come on in, let's go show David. So she shows it to David. David looks at it. Okay, honey, hand me a pen. And he signs it. I'm going, oh crap, I hope those contingencies work, man. So then she sat down at the kitchen table and read it word for word, but never asked me one question, and then she signed it. So I didn't really know what was next. I was just going through the manual as things were happening. Thank God I had the manual. But so I told her, I said, listen, I've just got to take care of some things. I'll keep you posted, but what's your phone number? She said, it doesn't matter anyway. The phone is shut off. I said, oh crap, well here's mine, and if you need to reach me. But I'll let you know what's happening. So then I get home, the book told me I need to call the foreclosure attorney to ask how much the back payments are, what is the payoff of the loan, and let him know that I have this house under contract. Now, so first thing I asked him, I said, hey, listen, how much are the back payments on 3011 Hillcrest Court? He goes, are you the owner? No, we can't tell you that. I said, oh my God, is there any other place I can get that information? I've got that house under contract and I need to know. He goes, wait a minute, you've got Hillcrest under contract? I said, yes. He goes, well, I need to see it. He goes, if you have a valid contract, I can give you all the information you need. So I took it down to his office. I'm in this attorney's room. I'm sitting in a chair. He's on this big desk with all these boards behind him. And he's got these glasses on the bridge of his nose. He's looking at that contract. He looks at me. He looks at the contract. He looks at me. He goes, damn, you're going to make $50,000 on this house. I said, really? When? He said, how long you been doing this? I said, about 3 weeks. He said, what are you going to do with the property? Well, I was going to sell the contract, because that's what you do if you don't have any money. If you get something under contract, you can sell that contract instantly. If I had this house under contract in this town, and I stood up here and said, look, I've got a contract for sale, does anybody want to buy it? How many of you would be wanting to see that deal? Yeah. You see, it's easy to sell a contract once you get one. And then when I take y'all to the auction, that's where the real bidders are, the cash buyers, who they buy things they haven't even seen the inside of yet, so they're not wishy-washy. If it's a good deal, they'll buy the contract on the spot. Okay. So, what happened is the attorney asked me what I was going to do with the property, and I was going to wholesale it or sell the contract. But when he said I was going to make $50,000, I'm thinking, well, that's what I want. So I told him, I said, well, I guess I'm going to fix it up. He goes, all right. Well, he goes, who's doing the closing? What exactly is a closing? I hadn't studied that chapter yet. I didn't even know. So he said, look, we don't have time. I'm supposed to auction this house off Tuesday. He goes, why don't you get the owners to come to my office tomorrow? I'll prepare a warranty deed. Once they sign it, we'll just close this whole thing out. He goes, we don't have time for you to mess around, or whatever words he used. He goes, I'll just close the deal, but you need to bring a certified check for $6,032. I said, what's that for? He said, well, $3,032 to catch up the back payments to stop the foreclosure. And then they owe just below $62,000 on the house. That's the balance of their loan. So you've offered $65,000, so you got to give them $3,000 at the closing. So I need a certified check for $6,032. Well, I didn't have it. So I'm making excuses in his office. I'm going, well, hey, hold on, I still got to do a title search. He slides a piece of paper across the floor, across his desk, says, I've already done one. He goes, here it is. He goes, there are no liens on that house except for that mortgage, and the taxes are current. There's no other liens. That's how I know that house is loaded with equity. So then he finally realized, because I kept saying, well, I got to do some more due diligence and some inspections and stuff. He goes, look, we don't have time for that. He goes, you don't have the money, do you? I said, no. He said, have you been to one of those no money down seminars? I said, yeah. He goes, well, you got a good deal here. He goes, can't you borrow the money from your mom or your dad or something like that? I said, that's a good idea. I'll try. So I went to my dad. I said, hey, Dad, I got this great real estate deal. I'm going to make $50,000. I said, all I need is $6,032. He goes, get away from me. I said, no, Dad, I'll give you $9,000 if you loan me $6,032. Because I'm going to make $50,000, so I'll make it worth your while. He goes, I'm not interested. I said, $10,000. I'll give you $10,000 if you loan me $6,000. His eyebrows started to raise. He was going, what house? I don't even know if there is a house. I haven't seen any house. I said, hop in the truck. I drive up. I go, there it is. And the grass was 3 feet high. The gutters are falling off the roof. It's chocolate brown. He goes, oh my God, son, it looks haunted. I said, no, there's real ghosts. I mean, people living in it. So I said, come on, I'll show you. So I knocked on the door and I told the lady, I said, listen, my dad, he's going to be my partner on this. I said, do you mind if I come in and let him look around? She goes, come on in. The first thing he said is, what is that horrible smell? I said, Dad, shh. That's the smell of money. How many of you know that is the smell of money? You see, when I take y'all out in the field, we see some real winners. And some of you classmates are usually saying, oh, this was terrible, let's go on to the next one. But you'll see me, I'm foaming at the mouth because I'm loving it, man. I get so turned on the uglier it is and the more messed up. So, but because why is that? Because it guarantees a big discount, doesn't it? The worse it looks, and how many of you know, some of you do, if the worse it looks, and it's really easy to clean it up. It really is. We don't have to do it. We get some laborers, get a dumpster, next thing you know it's all cleaned out, And you know, it's not that bad. The worse it looks, the better. Okay, I'm going to show you some pictures in a minute. Okay, so what happened is I finally, after showing it to my dad, he still wasn't interested. He goes, oh no, there's too much work for that house. He goes, if you find something nicer, I might be interested. I said, Dad, that house is a money maker. I said, look, I'll double your money. Well, he still didn't say yes. But on the way home, I said, I've got to go to the attorney's office and cancel the closing. He goes, I'll wait in the car. I said, but they have free coffee in the lobby. He goes, oh, okay, I'll come in and get some coffee. I went to the reception person. I said, listen, I need to talk to the attorney. So he came from the back office to the lobby. My dad's standing there with me with a cup of coffee. I said, look, I took my dad over there. He looked at it. He doesn't want to do the deal, so I need to cancel the closing. That attorney was going, what? You're canceling the closing? He goes, do you realize that house is loaded with profit? He goes, that's one of the best deals I've seen in a long time. He goes, hell, I'd buy it if I could. My dad whipped out his checkbook and wrote me a check for $7,000, not to me, but to the attorney. I said, Dad, I only need $6,032. He goes, well, let's make it a nice round figure. You see, double your money, the more he puts in. I said, Dad, have you been to one of them seminars too? So anyway, he wrote the check to the attorney. I went to the closing the next day. The attorney caught up the back payments, gave the seller $3,000, and got the deed signed. Then he walked over and recorded it. But then he handed me a check for $900 and something. I said, what's that for? He goes, that's what's left over out of your dad's check. I said, cash at closing? I haven't even read that chapter yet. Man, that was sweet. I said, I should have asked him for $10,000. Do you realize if I'd asked him for $10,000, I would have walked out of the closing with a check for almost $4,000. So I learned something. Using other people's money, always get a little more than you need because you get paid for it. And then the books and tapes started to make sense because it was telling me all about this stuff. It's just that I was only reading what I needed to get through this deal. But later I started hearing all these types of techniques. Okay, so here's what happened. Instead of putting the house up for sale, I refinanced it and kept it as a rental. And I got a check. When I refinanced it, I pulled out a check for $27,566. Now, folks, I was making at Lockheed at the time $27,678, but I got a check for $27,500, and it took 88 days to get that check from the time I bought it. So, but I still owned it. And the refi, they would only loan me 80% of the appraised value. So I still had a lot of equity, 20%. And then I had a renter giving me a positive cash flow, $200 a month. But the reason I decided to refinance and pull out this money is it's tax-free because it's borrowed money, you see. But I'm not paying it back. Who is? The renters. So that was a great technique that people like to use. And instead of, it's a way to build up your rental and build wealth and get tax-free checks like this where the tenants are paying the money back. Okay, so that was the beginning of my career. Once I got on that, I was addicted, so I got another deal. Well, I had to give Dad half of the check. I gave him $14,000. I still had $13,500 in the checking account, and I used that money for my next deal. As a matter of fact, my dad was chasing me all over town, going, let me put up the money, son. I was going, no, I got my own. Get away from me. So my second deal, less than 2 weeks after this, all I needed was $5,800. I repeated the process on the next deal. I just took over the loan temporarily, and I needed $5,800. It was $5,400 in back payments, $500 to the seller is all he wanted. So then I fixed it up, refinanced it, and I got a check for $17,000. Then the third deal, the bank would not let me refinance. They said, "Oh, you're moving way too fast for me." He goes, "I don't want to give you any more loans because if these houses go vacant, you'll leave us holding the bag." So I put that house up for sale, got a check for $52,000 because I just sold it. Okay, so now I've got a nice substantial amount of money in the bank, and I got 2 deals under contract the next month, and I was still working at Lockheed, but I was so busy fixing up those 2 houses that I played hooky from my job. One day they called me. Lockheed called and said, "Listen, did someone die in your family or something?" I said, "No, why?" They said, "You hadn't been to work in 12 days. I went, "I forgot." And I went ahead and sent him a resignation letter because I had like $60,000 in my checking account. So I said, "Hell, I don't need that job. It's just taking up too much time." You know? So anyway, then what happened is that once I quit, I became a money machine, a foreclosure machine actually, but it was a money machine. Because what I would do is I'd get the legal notices, I would send letters to everybody in foreclosure, and I would buy those deals for the people that called on my letters. But in my zip code, I would knock on all the foreclosures in my own zip code. But I would send letters all over the county. So I had 2 things of marketing going. And the door knocking was really paying off because I could knock on 12 doors and get 1 deal. But I could send 200 letters and get 2 calls. So, you know, the door knocking paid off. And that's why I still knock today. I love door knocking. It pays. Okay. So then the people that had second mortgages and nobody else wanted those deals because there was no equity. But I learned how to discount the second mortgage and create profit. So I mastered that. And then when you knock on doors, some people say, "No, it's not for sale. Get out of here. It'll never be for sale." So you can call the bank and buy the loan. And that's another technique for the people that don't want to sell. And then I would always go to the auction just to see, because the people whose doors I knocked on that said, "No, it's not for sale," if it went up for auction, I get another chance to buy it. Now, and then at the auction, that's how you get the best list of REO properties, real estate owned by banks. Because at the auction, not all the homes sell, so sometimes the opening bid is too high and nobody bids on it. So they go going once, twice, sold, back to the bank. So the next day I would make offers on every house that went back to the bank. So that was part of the machine. And then a lot of people, if you file bankruptcy, your house, it stops the auction. Your house doesn't go up for auction. If my house was going up for auction tomorrow morning, if I file bankruptcy today, it stops the auction. So, a lot of people file bankruptcy to stop their homes from going up for auction. And I learned how to buy those through the bankruptcy. Now, the way you do it, there's a website called it's called Pacer, P-A-C-E-R, Pacer.gov, not .com, .gov. And what you do, folks, is when someone's in bankruptcy, that website will show you their entire case, all the documents, and you're looking for a document called relief of stay. If there's a document called relief of stay, then that means you can buy the house from the owner. Because what that means is they've released the house to the bank so they can auction it off. So there's a window of opportunity before it goes up for auction again. And the owner is much more motivated because he can't do anything else. After filing bankruptcy, the bank is not going to give him a modification, and it's probably why he filed, because he couldn't get a modification. So there's no other options. He's going to lose his home and have a foreclosure and a bankruptcy. So now they're highly motivated. Okay? All right. And then while I was working the foreclosures, I was finding other deals in those neighborhoods with no for sale signs, and nobody else knew about it. And eventually it became, I was getting more deals from the hidden market than I was getting from the foreclosures. But I had a great career. Now let's move on. Here is the foreclosure auction. Now in Richland County, it's indoors, okay, but in my town it's outdoors. And there's a point I want to make. The guy with the circle around his head is the auctioneer. He's auctioning off houses, but who are all these other yahoos? Huh?
Buyers.
Yes, bidders. What do bidders have to buy houses? Cash. So every time I get something under contract, which was every weekend, it still is, I would go to the auction, because if he was bidding on this house, and he was bidding, and he is bidding, eventually these two drop out and he wins the bid. So that meant these guys have a pocket full of money, but no deal. So what a great time to approach him and say, listen, I got this house under contract. I'd like to sell the contract. If you're interested, meet me over there after the auction. So if there was more than one investor interested, I'd take them all at the same time, because it would create a bidding war. Okay? Now, there's a lot of money at these auctions. Okay. All right. Now, here is a hidden market. And folks, I usually tell you to look for high grass, overgrown bushes, but that doesn't have it, does it? I'm also a master at spotting vacant houses when I'm driving through neighborhoods. There is a lot of vacant houses you don't even know are vacant. I thought this was vacant. Normally I'm looking for distress, but when I was driving through this neighborhood, and this was just recently, I said, for some reason that house looks vacant, so I stopped and I knocked on the door. You see, I knock on doors just thinking it's vacant, and that's how I find out if it is or not. And if they answer, I say, hey, do you want to sell your house? And if they say no, I'll say, do you know anybody else that does? Do you know any vacant homes? Well, that one's vacant. You know, I get more leads from door knocking than any other source. Okay. But when I knocked on this door, no one answered, so I looked in the windows, and it was filled with stuff, just garbage, trash. I said, I can't tell if someone lives here or not. I don't know if it's just vacant with a bunch of crap. So I went to the neighbors. I knocked on their door and I said, listen, does anybody live in that house? They said, oh yeah. They said, him and about 35 cats. They said, we've turned them in. That house is so disgusting that we have been turning him into the county countless times. And I think they're finally going to do something. So, what happened is whenever, see, I told you that the key to success is the follow-up. He didn't answer that day, so I went back. Still didn't answer. So I went back again, and I caught him at home. I said, listen, I'm looking to buy a home in the area and want to know if you want to sell. He goes, well, I'm moving in with my brother. I said, well, do you want to sell the house? He goes, the county is going to condemn it. I said, what do you mean the county's going to condemn it? He said, they put a code violation against me saying that I have 60 days to fix it up or they're going to condemn it. So I'm moving in with my brother and I'm just going to let him have it. I said, hell, don't do that, I'll buy it. I said, hell, I'll buy it. How much would you take for it? He goes, hell, I don't know, 20? I said, hold on just a minute. I went to my car, I got a contract, and I wrote a contract on the hood of my car, and he signed it. And when he signed it, I swear to God, he said, I feel like I'm ripping you off. He goes, should we make it 10? I said, no. I said, I've got an inspection clause. If the inspector finds anything, 20 is fine. Because, folks, the house was worth $150 according to neighborhood comps. Now, it did need a lot of work. I mean, the whole floor was caving in. His kitchen sink had been leaking for 10 years, and the whole floor the sink had sank. The toilets had sank because they had been leaking. I had to rebuild the floor, but I made $107,000 profit, folks. Now, you just can't get these. Folks, the day I got this under contract, there was a guy from We Buy Ugly Houses franchise. He was rehabbing a house 2 or 3 houses down. And when he saw a dumpster go in that driveway, he came over to investigate, going, what's going on? I said, oh, I just bought this house. He goes, I'll give you $50,000 for it right now. Just don't do nothing. I'll give you 50. I would have made 30,000. And I said, no, I'm going to rehab it. He goes, so he came back the next day and said, I'll give you 55. And then he came back the next day and offered 60 because that's how much he had paid for his. That's how much I would have paid if I'd have used my formula. But I asked the owner, I said, how much do you want for it? He said 20. And when he said, I feel like I'm ripping you off, could you make it 10? I didn't want to rip him off, you see. So I said, no, 20 is fine. Okay, so here's what I did. Here's where I bought it for 20. Now there's the kitchen after we cleaned it out. I got a dumpster. This is after it's been cleaned out. Now this sink had been leaking and the floor had been, the floor joists were bad. There's the other side of the kitchen after it was cleaned out. And that's after I fixed it up. Now folks, the comps were $150,000. I sold that house for $200,000 cash. The first day I put it on the market, I had 3 offers. 2 of them were financing and 1 was cash. So of course I took the cash, no appraisal, no nothing, because I don't think it would appraise for $200,000. But the guy, We Buy Ugly Houses, he finished his before I finished this one. And he put his on the market for $189,000, and the first day on the market, it looked like a parade in front of that house. I mean, homes in this price range were selling like hotcakes. So that's why these homes were selling so fast. And this was, let's see, July of 2018. Now, here's also the house. This is the same house. Now, let me show you what I did here. You see this kind of T111 siding? This particular wall was flaking real bad. I did a lead-based paint test. It had lead. So instead of building a big plastic tent and putting hazmat suits and scraping it off, I just went right over the top of it, and it was only that one wall. So I just sealed it in. I sealed in the lead. And there's the finished product. I didn't want to paint the brick, so I painted the T111. $200,000, folks. I made $107,000 because I put 50 in it. Now, this one I've been working on even this morning before I came here because I'm down to the wire. I bought this house for $106,000 in that condition. There it is today, about to go on the market for $300,000. There's the kitchen before. There's a close-up. See, I told you, I'm foaming at the mouth, man. I love that. It guarantees $106,000. You see. There's the finished product. Look at this again. There's the old one. I tore all that out. Put in floating shelves, can lights. Put a little, thing here. So it's going on the market Monday morning. It was going to go on the market before I came here, but my realtor gave me a punch list of 10 items. So I didn't have time this morning, so I'll get it done tomorrow. But what I'm trying to show you folks, you can't buy houses for $20,000. I could have never bought that house if one other person knew about it. This house, there's no way I could have got this for $106,000 if one other person knew about it. You see, because if one other person knew, then they would have offered more than me, and then I would have had to offer more than them, and it would have been a bidding war between two measly investors. I find houses that nobody else knows can be bought, and that's why it's called the hidden market, okay? And this is brand new. I mean, just did this at the beginning of the year. I've been working on it for the last 3 months. So the hidden market is where you're buying houses with no competition. Because there's no for sale signs. Nobody knows these homes can be bought. There's no ads in the paper. There's nothing, no advertising. Okay, let me tell you about my field trips, my classes. This, you see, I usually get a class of 10 of you. That's the average, 10 people. And I take you out for 3 days, okay? And we go door knocking. Now this is one where during the class, this is one that we bought. What happened, we were driving along heading to the foreclosure. And we noticed this house with a piece of plywood, high grass. So we stopped and we looked in the windows. I said, folks, everybody look in the window because that'll change your life. So we looked in the window, it was definitely vacant, and we wrote down the address, and we find 30 of these minimum by going out on a day's trip. So this is the one we ended up buying that weekend because when we did the title search, it revealed the owner was incarcerated. And there was a power of attorney in the title search giving his mom permission to sell this house. The power of attorney had her address. So as a class, we went and knocked on her door. We said, do y'all want to sell that house? We asked her, she goes, yeah, my son's in jail. He wants me to sell it for him, but I don't have the money to fix it up. I said, we'll buy it as is. She goes, I've been trying to save up, but I have to keep the payments current. She goes, I've been making payments on it, and I can't save up another dime to get that house fixed up. So I said, we'll buy it as is. She goes, you buy that house like that? See, people like this don't understand. People will buy. All they know is that you're supposed to call an agent, and the agent tells you to fix it up and how much you can get for it. So there's houses like this that people don't know they can sell. So this lady, we told her we could buy it. She said, well, how much would you give me? I said, how much do you owe? She said 90. And we knew it was worth 160 fixed up, but we didn't know how much work it needed. So we said, I tell you what, you're making the payments, right? Are they current? She goes, yes. I said, well, we'll just take over the loan, fix up the house, and pay the loan off. We'll fix it up and sell it, pay the loan off. And then you don't have to make payments anymore. She goes, well, how much money do I get from the sale? I said, that's it. I said, you just don't have to make payments anymore. I figured that was enough, don't you? So she said, well, I was hoping to get some of my money back. I've been making payments on it for a year. I said, well, listen. I said, is there any way we can see the inside? She said, yeah, I'll give you the key. So we went over there as a class. We went over it with a fine-tooth comb. We estimated repairs. We inspected it. We knew it was going to take about $30,000 to fix it up. It was a disaster. So we went back to her. We said, how much do you want? I said, it needs a lot of work. I said, how much have you put into it? She says, I've paid at least $10,000 in payments. And that was my life savings. I said, well, because of the work, I said, would you be willing to take 5? We'll take over the loan. You never have to make another payment. We'll give you $5,000. She said, now that I'll do. So she was very quick to say, I'll do it. So we got it under contract. We went to the auction. We were going to sell it at the auction, the contract. And this one investor was so excited he wanted to give us the money on the spot. $4,000. He said, I'll give you $4,000 for that contract right now. So I told the class, I said, hey, $4,000 good? They said, hell no. They said, why don't we fix it up? Because they saw how excited the investors were. So they were thinking, oh, it's really a great deal. We shouldn't let it go. We should fix it up. So the class fixed it up. Now the tax value alone, which is low, is $146. The balance of the loan was $90. The repairs were $30. We offered $95, give the lady $5, and take over the loan subject to. And we were planning to fix it up and list it at $159.9. There's the finished product. The class did that. You see. So what happened is we decided to refinance it, and we pulled out a check for $23,800 and split it evenly with the class. And we all still own the house and kept it as a rental. It's been going up in value, skyrocketing. So it's a good investment for the whole class. Okay, now here's another property where we bought the house. It was a hidden market. Here's how it happened. The house, I had this one student that said, look, I want you to take me door knocking. How much would you charge? So, and if I door knock and negotiate a deal, I give it to the student. So I got he paid me to take him door knocking on foreclosures. So we were driving to a foreclosure, and he was driving, and I said, hey, I saw a house with a U-Haul in the driveway, and the house was distressed. So I said, hey Bill, stop at that house. I said, and he passed it, and he says, why? I said, let's go back. He goes, look, I paid you a lot of money to take me door knocking. He goes, what are you doing? You're wasting my time. And he was mad at me. I said, Bill, whenever you see a U-Haul in a distressed house, you always stop. So we went back and we asked the guy, are you moving in or moving out? He said, we're moving out. I said, would you like to sell that house? He goes, it's not my house. I'm just a renter. I said, well, do you mind if Bill and I walk through the house? He goes, it's not my house. Go ahead. So we walked through the house. It was a disaster. It needed new kitchen, new everything. Bathrooms were nasty. The carpet was toast. It was just so nasty. So I asked the guy in the U-Haul for the landlord's number. We called her. It was a girl that owns the house. So we said, listen, we're here. We've seen your tenants moving out. She goes, yeah. I said, we were just wanting to know, are you going to fix it up and re-rent it, or would you be interested in selling it? She goes, what do you mean fix it up? I said, oh, you hadn't seen it? I said, it's a disaster, you know. I've estimated 25, 30,000 in repairs. She goes, oh my God, I don't have that kind of money. She goes, you know, I got divorced a year ago, and I got that house in the divorce, but I was living with my boyfriend. I said, well, that's probably why you got divorced. She said, she said, the reason I rented it is because I didn't have it, you know, I just wanted to see if I could get some income on it, because I've got a new wife. But she didn't have the money to fix it up, so I said, well, would you be interested in selling it in as-is condition? She said, well, if I could walk away with $10,000, I would. I said, I'll let you know tomorrow. So Bill and I went door knocking, we went and found some more hidden markets, and this is the one we ended up getting that day, because when we did a title search, we found out she only owed $58,000 and it was worth $140 to $150. So I said, Bill, what you can do, I could structure an offer where you give her $10,000 and take over the loan, fix it up, then sell it, pay her loan off. He goes, oh, I don't know, man. He goes, this is too fast for me. He goes, would you partner with me? I said, well, I'll have to think about it. Okay. So I said, Bill, if you want, we can structure it where she gets her $10,000 after we fix it up and sell it. He said, no, let's just go ahead and pay her off. So I paid $5, he paid $5, gave her $10. We took over the $58. It needed $26,000 in repairs. We put it on the market at $149,900. It sold real quick for $148,000. We used a realtor at 5%, and Bill and I got a check for $76,600. And there we are, a Tom Selleck lookalike. And I said, Bill, you know, I think you should give me a bonus for all that abuse you gave me when I told you to turn around and go back. He laughed. So there's our check. Now, I want to ask you some questions. When we found this house, was there a for sale sign in the yard? Was it on the MLS? Was it advertised in the newspaper? Was it on the internet? Was it on anybody's list? Get this. Did the owner know the house was for sale that day? You see, the hidden market, the owner doesn't even know his house is for sale. So how could anybody else know that house was for sale? Now, let me ask you this question. Here's the house Bill and I did. This is after we fixed it up. Was there a for sale sign in the yard? Was it on the MLS? Was it on the internet? Was it on anybody's list? Did the owner know the house was for sale that day? You see, folks, when I take you out, we knock on doors of any house that looks distressed in neighborhoods, and we find good deals. We find probate situations, bankruptcy situations. You see, every neighborhood has somebody who's either going through a divorce, their loss of loved one, loss of job, loss of income, going into an old folks home soon, or need to, or dying. And every neighborhood has those, but we just don't know who they are, do we? And we find those by door knocking. Now, folks, May 4th, 5th, and 6th, I am going to be here and taking a group of you out for 3 days, knocking on doors and finding deals. Of course, I always give the deals to the class or the REIA, but I'm going to take you by the hand. So that means when I take you, I'm going to take you two to the first door, you two to the second door, you two to the third door, you two to the fourth door, and keep rotating. And the classes are generally small, so we just keep doing it. We just keep knocking. And you get, several opportunities. But I take you by the hand and I prove it works. And we always get deals, don't we, Bob? Last time we got one, we did one, it was 2 years ago almost. And I see my friend here, he got a deal. Do you want to tell them about your deal?
Sure, it happened to be a street over from my house. I kept driving by and seeing the yard grown up and everything, and then Tony came and spoke, and I said, talked with him afterwards, I said, listen, we need to go check that house out. He came and had to pursue the guy, went over to Gilbert to find the guy, and
because the house was vacant.
And just like Tony said, I was watching all this happen, and Tony goes up and says, you want to sell your house? And he said, yeah. It was just like that. It was the last one of the day, too.
Yeah. And what happened, though, is he said yes, and he met us over there. We walked through the house, and we made an offer. And then what happened? He turned it down.
He turned it down.
He said it's too low. But then he called you back and said, hey, I've changed my mind. Are you still interested?
And we took it.
Yeah. That's good. In his own neighborhood, he could sit at his kitchen table and see the house. Okay. Now, Greg Belk, I don't see him here, but Greg did a one-on-one with me, and he's from Charleston. Now, folks, it is hard to get good deals in Charleston, according to Greg. So I went out there with him and spent 3 days with him. He's done 9 deals, and he wholesales them, and he's getting $28,000 and $30,000 per contract. And he did 9 deals his first year. Now, folks, I'm telling you, this works. And you need to consider going to that 3-day training, or if you want to talk to me about a one-on-one, I'll work with you one-on-one. Now, when I deal with one-on-ones or just boot camp classes, I can spot what your weakness is. Like maybe your weakness is knocking on doors, so I work specifically with you to help you overcome that fear. Or maybe you're weak at doing a title search, so I spend extra time making sure that you know how to do a title search. Or I'll spend extra time because I find that the one part you don't understand is this or that, and so I focus on that to get you over that little hump. Because every one of you can do this. Every one of you. So I work with you, and there's not many people whose picture is on the books and tapes that will spend that kind of time with you, unless you're paying them $50,000 or $60,000. I'm not like that. So now look, this is a house I just sold the summer before last. I bought it with owner financing. I rented it for 6 years, no money down, never had a dime in it, and then I paid off the lady, and I got a check for $90,000. So here's how the training works. We're going to plot a course of 10 foreclosures. We're going to go door knocking on it. While we're out, we do all the inspections, analyzing, estimating repairs. We write offers. We do title searches at the courthouse. I take you down to the courthouse to do title searches on all the hidden markets we find and all the foreclosures. And while we're there, there's going to be an auction. So I'm going to show you how to get cash buyers, business cards, and numbers. And anything that we have under contract we'll sell that day at the auction. So we're just going to make offers, and set up a quick sale. And I got to tell you about, it says, I've been so afraid to quit my job and do real estate full-time that I went part-time for a month. However, Gary and I have so many houses under contract and undergoing rehab that I need to dedicate this as my full-time business. So Friday, I quit my job. the most amazing and scary thing is we now have other people giving us their money to partner with on these deals. Just today, I had an investor give me $170,000 to buy and rehab a house. This includes the fee I now charge for finding the deal, and then I split the profits with the investor. I never would have imagined other people would actually give me their money to do these deals. You see, I told you at the beginning of tonight, if you're good at finding them, everybody wants to back you. Even myself, since I'm a wholesaler, I usually give my deals to the same three investors. They buy from me all the time. It's repeat business. I'm feeding them, they're feeding me. But if another investor wants to get in on it, I keep thinking that's me, it sounds like. But if I want to get it, so what happens? What happens is sometimes if a new investor wants to get in with me, he'll give me the money up front. I charge $7,000 per contract. I just give them a flat fee. My students are getting $20,000 in my area, but I want repeat business, so I get this. I sell contracts every month, so I get nice monthly income, and I don't ever have to worry about haggling. They'll give me $7,000 sight unseen, but I have other investors that'll give me the $7,000 up front and say, "I want the name you find." How many of you would love to have that problem? Get good at finding deals. Okay. So, oops, I forgot to do this. Okay, act like this says. Okay. I was so busy watching the Masters in the lobby, I forgot to use it. But it's May 4th, 5th, and 6th. It's a Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Okay? And I'm going to try and get this same room. I haven't got it yet because I don't know how many people there's going to be, So if it's a smaller group, then maybe I'll try somewhere else. But it's going to be right in this area. But guaranteed I'll be here. Bob, I always show up, don't I? Okay. All right, so let me show you. It's $14.97. But you get to bring a family member, like a spouse, a significant other, or a son, daughter. As a matter of fact, if you really are serious about getting your sons and daughters involved, I'd let those, more than one come if you need to. But I do love for kids to get involved. Now, if you buy tonight, you get this home study system. I got them right here. It's got 16 DVDs. 3 of those are how to buy unlisted bank-owned houses. You just email offers. We'll be doing it that weekend in person. Okay, 3 of these go with a manual. There's 4 manuals. And 3 of them are how to do subject to deals. And 1 of them is filmed in the class to teach you how to do a title search. 1 is filmed where I'm taking an investor through one of my houses to wholesale it to him. Another one is how to buy the loan from the bank. And 1 of them is where when you plug in the video, it shows me knocking on the door and someone answers. So you get to hear what I say. In the live training, you'll be standing next to me. But in the video, you're standing next to me because you're the camera, okay? So, and then this guy comes to the door in that video. I talk to him, then his wife says, "Who is it? What's going on?" So he brings her into the picture, and she starts saying, "What are you all about?" And then they invite me in. I present an offer at the kitchen table as if you were sitting at the kitchen table with me. Okay. And then 1 of them is where you're in my car driving through neighborhoods, and I'm pointing out how to spot hidden market deals. And so that's a good video too. And then there's 6 audio CDs to listen to in your car while you're riding around looking for hidden markets. So $14.97, you get to bring a family member, and you take home a home study course tonight. Here's Norma. Norma was so scared to put her name on the contract when I was doing a one-on-one with her. So she was afraid to make an offer knowing she didn't have the money. So I put it in my name. This is up in Ohio, but I went back home and I still did the deal for her. So I sold the house and they sent me I sold the contract and they sent me a check for $5,500 from the closing. And I turned around and sent it to Norma. And now she will do it, because what I had to prove to her was that nobody ever asked me for a dime. Never put one dime into it. I never do. Nobody ever asked me for proof of funds, because folks, when you do the hidden market, they never ask you for proof of funds. They never tell you you can't assign the contract. Never. So that's where you should do it, especially if you have no money or credit. But what I'm trying to say is, I'm such a great guy, I'll do it for you if I have to prove to you. I work with each individual because I know we all have different weaknesses. But if you sign up tonight, it's $9.97. But wait! You get to attend the Columbia Boot Camp, and you get the home study system. But I do weekly training webinars. Your first webinar will be this coming Sunday at 9 p.m. They're live webinars where I'm teaching you an aspect of the business. I'm pretty much keeping you updated every week by telling you what you should be doing and what I'm doing. And it's Q&A. All the students get to ask questions, and I answer those. And I answer your questions visually. So like if you say, now Tony, I forgot, how do you plot a course? Then I show you visually on the webinar. And they're so great. The people say that the webinars are worth the cost alone. But folks, how many times have you had people offer trainings like this? And then how many times has the guy whose picture on the cover taken you by the hand and taken you out and prove it works in your backyard? You just ain't gonna find it. Any guru that comes through here is gonna say, oh yeah, we're having a boot camp in Florida. And you gotta pay your own way and expenses to go down there, and there's 150 people there. This is a small class. Why do I do it so cheap? Because I'm making most of my money on deals. Okay? But I'm just helping out. You see, I've been a speaker for 20 years because I was so successful. So I like speaking, so I don't want to quit. So I'm here to help you. I don't have to charge you $50,000 for this kind of stuff. It's cheap. Okay? Now, anybody in this room who's ever dealt with me tells you that I do what I say I'm going to do, and I give you way more than your money's worth. Okay. All right, folks. Thank you very much. If you want to sign up for the training, it's $997. You see them in the back room. They'll give you a home study course to take home tonight. Make sure you put your email address legibly, because I'm going to be sending you the link to the training webinar. This is going to be your first one Sunday night. And then they're every week forever. Okay? So that keeps this system updated. I still have students that get on those webinars from 10 years ago, but they've made a lot of money, but they still love to get educated every week. Okay, thank you so much. Oh, by the way, if you want a one-on-one training, it's $39.97. If you want me to work with you personally, any date you choose. Okay.